What is the true nature of corruption? We tend to imagine it as a monster in the dark, a shadowy figure whispering temptations from just beyond our sight. We think of it as an external force, something that invades from the outside, seizing control of a will that was otherwise pure. But this is a comforting lie. The horrifying reality is that corruption is not a monster. It is a seed, and it is already planted inside your own mind. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, this is not a philosophical debate. It is a terrifying, inescapable, and daily reality. The Imperium of man is a galaxy defined by its struggle against the arch-enemy, the force known as chaos. The Inquisitor hunts it, the Guardsman fears it, and the Space Marine is built to destroy it. But the true war is not fought in the void or on blood-soaked battlefields. The true war is fought within the human heart. So, what really happens when you fall to chaos in Warhammer 40K? To understand the fall, you must first understand what chaos truly is. It is not merely a pantheon of evil gods. It is a psychic mirror. The realm of chaos, known as the warp or the Imperium, is a roiling, infinite ocean of raw psychic energy, and it is shaped entirely by the emotions, thoughts, and consciousness of every sentient being in the galaxy. Khorne, the blood god, is not just a god of war. He is every surge of rage you feel in a moment of violence. Every clenched fist, every surge of adrenaline in a life or death struggle. Tzeentch, the architect of fate, is the burning need to control your destiny, the desperate hope for a better tomorrow, and the obsessive curiosity that demands to know what lies forbidden. Nurgle, the Plague Father, is the terrifying realization of your own mortality, the fear of inevitable decay, and the profound, weary despair that wishes for all suffering to simply end. And Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, is the desperate craving for sensation, the pursuit of perfection, and the ecstatic joy of pushing boundaries, of feeling anything in a galaxy that demands you feel nothing. Chaos does not need to break down your door. It is already in the room. The fall, therefore, is rarely a single dramatic moment of betrayal. It is not always a dark ritual performed with evil intent. More often, the fall to chaos is a slow, insidious slide, a journey of 1,000 small compromises, each one justified, each one logical, until the destination is reached and the self is lost. Why would anyone choose this path? The answer is the Imperium itself. The Imperium is the single greatest incubator for chaos corruption in the galaxy. It is a regime built on a foundation of suffering. It demands blind obedience, enforces brutal repression, and offers only a future of desperate, grinding war. A man does not fall to chaos because he is evil. He falls because he is desperate. He falls because his family is dying from a plague the ecclesiarchy ignores, and he prays to any god that will listen. He falls because he is a scholar who sees the Imperium stagnating and he seeks forbidden knowledge to save it. He falls because he is a soldier who has seen too much death and craves the power to finally end the war, no matter the cost. The lure of chaos is the lure of an answer. In a universe that offers only silence, oblivion, and oppression, the ruinous powers are the only forces that speak back. They offer agency, they offer power, they offer hope. And the price, paid in installments, is your soul. Let us analyze the first and most direct path, the temptation of Khorne. The appeal of the blood god is its brutal simplicity. In a galaxy of intricate lies, bureaucratic stagnation, and insidious psychic plots, Khorne offers a singular, liberating truth: violence. The universe is a chaotic, complex, and terrifying place. Khorne promises to make it simple. There are no moral quandaries, there are no complex logistics. There is only the enemy and the act of overcoming them. And that is the hardest thing to ignore. The appeal of Khorne is the appeal of clarity. He is the patron of the warrior, the soldier, and the duelist. But more than that, he is the god of rage. Imagine you are an Imperial guardsman. You have been fighting for years. You have watched your superiors send thousands of men to their deaths for strategic reasons you cannot comprehend. You have seen commissars execute your friends for cowardice when they were merely broken by fear. A quiet resentment begins to burn. You start to hate the enemy, yes, but you also start to hate your allies, your commanders, and the very system that threw you here. The first step on Khorne's path is not worship, it is frustration. You take your anger out on a captive orc, striking it with more force than is necessary. It feels good. It feels just. You are rewarded for your ferocity in battle. You are promoted. You push your squad harder. You demand more. The next step is bloodlust. The feeling of righteousness fades, replaced by a simple, driving need. The act of killing is no longer a means to an end. It is the end. The complex emotions of grief, fear, and frustration are burned away, replaced by a single, hot, pure emotion: rage. Your prayers to the Emperor feel hollow, but the hammering of your heart in battle feels real. Now the gifts begin. You feel stronger, faster. Your wounds seem to clot with unnatural speed. You find you can fight for days without rest, fueled by a fire that never dims. This is the physiological transformation. Your muscles swell with warp-infused power. Your senses sharpen, but only to detect violence. You begin to hear a whisper, a rhythmic chanting in your skull that syncs with your heartbeat. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. You are no longer a soldier, you are a tool of indiscriminate rage. And here we must analyze the cost. The cost of Khorne's gift is your mind. You have gained unparalleled strength, but you have lost all reason. You have become a slave to the very rage that you thought you were mastering. You cannot strategize. You cannot feel loyalty. You cannot distinguish between a worthy foe and an unarmed civilian. You cannot even recognize your own comrades. Khorne does not care who the blood flows from, only that it flows. The ultimate Khorne champion is not a cunning general. It is a mindless, screaming berserker, trapped in an eternal, agonizing battle against everything, including itself. You sought clarity in violence, and in doing so, you have lost all clarity of self. You are a weapon locked in a permanent state of firing until you either break or are broken. If Khorne offers simplicity, Tzeentch offers the exact opposite: complexity. His is the path of the intellectual, the ambitious, the philosopher, and the psyker. Tzeentch, the architect of fate, does not promise strength or pleasure. He promises something far more seductive to the thinking mind. He promises truth. The Imperium is built on lies. The ecclesiarchy preaches a doctrine it knows is flawed. The Inquisition hoards knowledge, damning entire worlds to ignorance. The Adeptus Mechanicus treats science as ritual, forbidding the very innovation that might save humanity. Into this world of enforced ignorance, Tzeentch offers the key to the lock. The fall to Tzeentch begins with a simple question: what if there is a better way? Consider an inquisitor. Her entire life is dedicated to protecting the Imperium. She sees the rot at its core. She sees the endless, grinding inefficiency that costs billions of lives. She believes that if she just had more knowledge, more foresight, she could fix it. She could outsmart the enemy, predict the next Xenos invasion, and stop the next cult before it forms. She finds a forbidden text, a minor demonic artifact. She justifies its use. To know the enemy, I must understand his tools. She performs a contained ritual, and it works. She averts a disaster. She saves a world. She is validated. She believes she is in control. This is the core deception of the Changer of Ways. Tzeentch does not corrupt, he guides. He makes you believe that you are the one making the choices. He presents you with a labyrinth of possibilities and whispers that you and only you are smart enough to navigate it. Every victory you achieve, every truth you uncover, is merely another turn in his maze, a turn he designed for you. The gifts of Tzeentch are physical manifestations of this knowledge. You are a scholar obsessed with forbidden lore. Tzeentch grants you a third eye in your palm, the better to read your tomes. You are a leader who wishes you could be in 10 places at once. Tzeentch grants you twisting avian wings, the better to rise above it all. The mutation is not a punishment, it is a reward, a physical sign of your supposed enlightenment. But what is the cost? The cost of Tzeentch's gift is reality. You have traded sanity for knowledge. You are so obsessed with seeing the patterns in the universe that you can no longer see the simple truth in front of you. You are paranoid, consumed by plotting and counterplotting. You see enemies in every shadow and allies as mere pawns in your great plan. You have become a prophet who can see 1,000 futures but can no longer remember your own past. You have gained all the knowledge in the universe, but you have lost the ability to understand any of it. You are a puppet in your own grand scheme, forever dancing on the strings of the one true manipulator. You sought to control destiny, and you have become its prisoner. The third path is perhaps the most insidious, because it is born not of rage or ambition, but of despair. The galaxy of the 31st millennium is a place of profound, unrelenting suffering. Worlds are racked by plague, bodies are broken by war, minds are shattered by trauma. And in the face of this endless, meaningless pain, Nurgle offers one thing: mercy. The appeal of Nurgle, the Plague Father, the Grandfather, is the appeal of acceptance. He is the god of entropy, decay, and death, yes, but he is also the god of resilience, rebirth, and the simple, stubborn refusal to die. He does not promise to heal your pain. He promises to make you love your pain. The fall to Nurgle begins with a prayer for it all to end. Imagine a hive city. The lower levels are flooded with toxic sludge. A plague ignored by the highborn sweeps through the population. You are a mother. Your child is sick. You have prayed to the Emperor, and the only answer was a visiting confessor who told you to rejoice in your suffering, for it is holy. But your child is dying. In your grief and your helplessness, you whisper a different prayer, a prayer to anything. You don't ask for a cure, you just ask for the pain to stop. And Nurgle answers. The first gift is not a plague, it is an absence. The gnawing hunger in your belly fades. The agonizing grief in your heart dulls. The stench of the hive, the screams of the dying, they all just become quiet. You are overcome with a profound, blissful apathy. Your child's skin begins to blister and weep, but he is no longer crying. He is giggling. The transformation is a parody of life. Your body begins to swell, to rot, to bloat with a billion new vibrant diseases, but it doesn't hurt. You are a walking corpse, but you have never felt more alive. You are part of a new, joyful family. The other plague bearers, the demonic Nurglings, the great unclean ones, they are all your brothers, your children. You are loved. You are accepted. This is the horrifying philosophical cost of Nurgle. You have not overcome suffering. You have been absorbed by it. You have traded your humanity for numbness. You have mistaken stagnation for peace. Your mind, once sharp with grief and love, has become a dull, buzzing swamp of simple, happy thoughts. You are a loving mother, but you would happily watch the universe rot so long as you could be with your family. You have been saved from the pain of living, but at the cost of being alive at all. You have become a walking, blissful monument to the universe's inevitable decay, a slave to the slow churning and merciful end of all things. The fourth and final path is the most misunderstood. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, the Prince of Pleasure, is not simply the god of lust or hedonism. Slaanesh is the god of excess. He is the god of sensation. And in a galaxy defined by repression, Slaanesh is the ultimate, liberating yes. The Imperium is a culture of no. Do not think, do not feel, do not desire. Your only purpose is to work, to fight, and to die, all without complaint. The creed of the ecclesiarchy crushes art. The dogma of the mechanicus strangles innovation. The life of a guardsman obliterates individuality. Slaanesh is the answer to this repression. The fall to Slaanesh is the pursuit of perfection. It begins with an artist, a sculptor on a noble world. He wants to create the perfect statue, a work so beautiful it will make the emperor himself weep. He tries, but the imperial standard of art is rigid, lifeless. He pushes the boundaries. He uses exotic, forbidden materials. He works in a frenzy, ignoring food, sleep, and prayer. His patrons are shocked by his new work. It is beautiful, yes, but it is also disturbing. It evokes feelings in them they did not know they had. They are disgusted, but they cannot look away. The artist has tasted perfection, and he finds the rest of the world drab and dull in comparison. Or consider a space marine, an emperor's child, perhaps. He is engineered for perfection. He strives to be the perfect warrior, the perfect duelist. He hones his craft. He kills, and he seeks to make every kill a perfect act. He begins to take pleasure in the sound of a perfectly placed bolter round, the exquisite spray of Xenos blood, the harmonic scream of his chainsword. The gifts of Slaanesh are an amplification of the senses. Food tastes more divine than any mortal tongue could bear. Music becomes a symphony so complex it can shatter glass and break minds. The pursuit of perfection becomes a spiral into obsession. The artist's statues begin to writhe, crafted from living flesh, their screams a part of the art. The warrior's perfect duels become grotesque ballets of torture, designed to extract the most exquisite sensations of pain and terror. This is the hedonic treadmill of the damned. The cost of Slaanesh is satisfaction. You are a slave to your own senses. You have experienced perfection, and now nothing else will do. But perfection is a moving goalpost. The first thrill fades, and you must seek something more extreme, more taboo, more cruel. You become a monster not from rage or hope or despair, but from boredom. You have pushed every boundary, broken every taboo, and you are left hollow, an addict forever chasing a high that will never come again. You sought the freedom to feel everything, and in doing so, you have become a slave to your next most depraved sensation. We have walked the four main paths, but it is crucial to analyze the moment the fall truly occurs. When is the soul actually lost? Is it the moment the mutation appears? Is it the first time you whisper a dark god's name? The grimdark reality is that the soul is lost much, much earlier. It is lost in the first compromise. It is lost the moment the righteous guardsman decides his captive's life is worthless and strikes him in anger. It is lost the moment the noble inquisitor opens the forbidden book, certain that her ends justify the means. It is lost the moment the desperate mother looks at her sick child and wishes for numbness instead of a cure. It is lost the moment the perfectionist artist decides that a living being's pain is a small price to pay for his art. The fall to chaos is not an event, it is a process. It is the erosion of the self, one logical and justified decision at a time. The mutations, the power, the madness, those are merely the symptoms of a death that has already occurred. We are decoding the complex philosophical horror of the 41st millennium. This is not just a story of monsters, it is a story of how monsters are made. If this deep analysis of the lore is something you value, and if you wish to see more subjects deconstructed, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support allows us to continue exploring these dark corners. Of course, not everyone who falls chooses one of the four. There are those who walk the path of the damned, who seek chaos undivided. These are often the most ambitious, the pragmatists, men like Abaddon the Despoiler or the Word-bearers. They see the four gods not as masters to be worshipped, but as tools to be used. They seek to balance the powers, to draw strength from all of them without being enslaved by any of them. This is the ultimate arrogance. This is the final, most profound misunderstanding of chaos. They believe they are the masters. They believe they are playing a great game. They are deluded. The chaos gods are not tools. They are fundamental, primordial forces. To believe you can use chaos is like believing you can use a black hole. You are merely falling into it, and you are deluding yourself that your fall is in fact flying.
So, where does this path end? What is the final reward for this long descent into damnation? For the vast, overwhelming majority of those who fall, the journey ends in one of two catastrophic destinations. The first, and by far the most common, is oblivion. This is the fate known as the Chaos Spawn. The power of the warp is not meant for a mortal body. The gifts of the gods are corrosive. They twist, they warp, they mutate. But the mortal mind and body are weak containers. For most, there comes a point when the flesh and psyche can no longer handle the sheer pressurized energy of chaos. They break. The mind shatters. The body explodes in a grotesque eruption of raw, cancerous change. Flesh runs like wax, bones snap and reform. Eyes and mouths appear in screaming profusion. The individual is gone. What is left is a chaos spawn, a mindless, howling beast of pure, directionless mutation, driven only by pain and a shattered instinct. It is a fate so terrifying that even their former chaos-worshipping allies will put them down like a rabid animal. This is the end for the failures. This is the end for the weak. This is the truth for 99% of those who fall. But what about the 1%? What about the success stories? What about the champion who does survive? The one who murders his rivals, who sacrifices worlds, who truly catches the eye of his patron god? this champion is offered the final reward, apotheosis. They are elevated to become a demon prince. They are granted immortality. They are given power beyond the comprehension of mortals. Their body is reformed into a new, monstrous, and godlike image. They are no longer bound by the laws of physics. They are a demigod, an eternal champion of their master. They have, by all metrics, won. And this is the ultimate, most horrifying joke. This is the final, devastating, philosophical trap. Why did so many of these individuals fall in the first place? They fell seeking freedom. They fell to escape the oppressive, dogmatic, crushing weight of the Imperium. They fell to gain agency, to have free will, to control their own destiny. The moment they ascend to demonhood, they lose the last infinitesimal shred of that free will. They are no longer you. The person they were is dead, hollowed out, and gone forever. They have become nothing more than a part of their god, an extension of their god's will, a slave with a golden, eternal chain. A demon prince of Khorne cannot choose peace. It cannot strategize or scheme. It is an eternal engine of rage. A demon prince of cheese cannot accept a simple truth. It must plot, must scheme, even if it leads to its own ruin. A demon prince of Nurgle cannot feel ambition. It must spread despair and entropy. A demon prince of Slaanesh cannot be satisfied. It must forever seek the next, more grotesque sensation. Their reward is the ultimate slavery. They have become a perfect, immortal, and utterly powerless puppet, forever trapped in a gilded cage of their own making.
The fall to chaos is a story of tragedy, not of evil. It is the story of a journey that begins with relatable human desires, the desire for justice, the desire for truth, the desire for an end to pain, the desire for freedom. What we have decoded today is that chaos is not an external alien force that invades the galaxy. Chaos is the galaxy. It is the dark mirror reflecting the unfiltered, unprocessed, and monstrous emotions of all sentient life. The Imperium, in its endless, brutal campaign of repression, does not fight chaos. It feeds it. The Imperium's endless wars and culture of rage are a prayer to Khorne. Its rigid dogma and suppression of truth are a tithing to Tzeentch. The suffering and despair it inflicts on its quadrillions of citizens is a feast for Nurgle, and its desperate, suffocating repression of all human joy and expression is what gives Slaanesh his seductive power. The fall to chaos is not an escape from the Imperium. It is a symptom of it. It is the final, desperate lurch of a soul given an impossible choice. Be crushed to death by a machine of iron, or be devoured by a god of your own making. In the 41st millennium, there are no good choices. There is only the long, slow, and terrifying fall, and the final agonizing realization that the only thing you ever truly had to lose was your soul. If you wish to understand the other side of this mirror, explore our analysis of what it's like to be hunted by the Inquisitors who fight this war, or the soul-crushing life of the penal legionnaires who are caught in the middle. The grim darkness has many stories.